Today, we're going to dive into one of the strangest and maybe one of the most powerful stories you'll ever hear. It's the story of the Midnight Wrestler.
You know those nights, right? Where you're just lying there in the dark, and your brain is stuck on something that's waiting for you at sunrise. Something you have absolutely no idea how to face. It's not the dark you're afraid of, it's the dawn.
Well, that is the exact night a man named Jacob is living. Just pure gut-wrenching dread for a tomorrow he absolutely cannot escape.
All right, Section 1, A Night of Fear. To really get what's about to happen to Jacob, we have to understand this specific, suffocating fear that's got him in its grip.
So what's the backstory here? Well, 20 years ago, Jacob, who's been a schemer his whole life, cheated his twin brother Esau out of his inheritance. Then he ran for his life. Now, 2 decades have passed, but some debts don't just fade away. God has commanded him to go home, which means he finally has to face the brother he betrayed. And tomorrow is the day.
And here's the kicker. His scouts just came back with news. Esau is coming to meet him, and he's bringing 400 men. Now let's be real. That's not a welcome party. That's an army.
The original text says he was very afraid and distressed. And this isn't just, feeling a little anxious. This is that deep terror you feel when you realize that everything you've built for 20 years, your family, your wealth, your whole life, it could all be wiped out tomorrow because of one old grudge.
Okay, Section 2, the schemer's last plan. So what does a lifelong schemer do when his back's against the wall? Well, he schemes. This is Jacob falling back on the one and only thing he's ever really trusted, his own cleverness.
So he comes up with this 3-part plan. First, a military move. Split everyone into 2 groups. That way, if one gets attacked, the other might escape. Second, he prays. And it's a wild prayer because he actually says, "I am not worthy of all the steadfast love you have shown me." For a guy like Jacob, that's a huge deal. But then third, he goes right back to the old playbook, sending wave after wave of expensive gifts, goats, camels, you name it, to try and soften Esau up.
You see what's happening here, right? Jacob is throwing everything he's got at this problem. Strategy, prayer, money. He is running on fumes, completely exhausting every last tool in his personal kit of self-reliance. But he's about to find out it's not going to be enough.
Section 3, Wrestling in the Dark. And this brings us to the river. This is the moment where all the plans just dissolve, and things get really, really weird. Jacob sends his wives, his kids, everything he owns across the Jabbok River. And then he stays behind, all by himself, in the pitch black. The text never tells us why. Maybe he was trying to cook up one last scheme. Maybe he was just too scared to cross. We don't know, but he is now completely, utterly alone.
And then this happens. Out of nowhere, a man just appears and starts wrestling with him. No hello, no let's fight. Just a sudden, violent, physical struggle that goes on all night long. Jacob has no clue who this is. He just knows one thing, the thing that's defined his entire life. He cannot and he will not lose.
Section 4, How to Win by Losing. And this is where the story just flips on its head and becomes this incredible paradox. We're about to see how Jacob's greatest victory came from his total and complete defeat.
So the story hits us with this absolutely mind-bending line. After wrestling all night, it says, the mystery man saw that he could not prevail against him. He couldn't win. Hold on a second.
Let's just call it what it is. Later on, Jacob realizes this man was God himself, or at least a messenger from God. So how on earth does an all-powerful, divine being lose a wrestling match to a regular guy? It makes 0 sense. Unless he wasn't trying to win the fight at all. And that one thought, that one idea, it changes everything. The goal was never to pin Jacob's shoulders to the mat. The goal was for Jacob to lose himself. You see, the opponent was waiting for Jacob to finally burn out that deep, instinctual self-reliance, that lifelong need to grab and control everything, until there was nothing left of the old Jacob. And the proof is brilliant. I mean, think about it. After fighting for hours, basically at a stalemate, what does the man do? He just touches Jacob's hip, and boom, it's instantly dislocated. One touch. That single move proves he could have ended the fight in the first second. His incredible power was being held back the entire time. The goal was never to beat Jacob's body. It was to break his spirit of, I can do this myself. And so, the whole definition of victory gets rewritten. For Jacob, real victory wasn't when he was strong and fighting back. It happened at the moment he was weakest, when his hip was out of his socket, when he was totally beaten, and the only thing he could possibly do was just cling to his opponent and refuse to let go.
All right, section 5, the blessing of a scar. So let's look at the aftermath, because Jacob leaves this encounter with something way bigger than a win. He leaves with a blessed scar.
The man asks Jacob his name, and for the first time, maybe ever, he has to say it out loud, to own it. Jacob, which means the grasper, the deceiver. He confesses exactly who he is, and in that moment of confession, he's given a new name, Israel, which means he struggles with God. His entire identity shifts. He went into the fight strong in himself. He comes out of it strong only in his weakness, only in his clinging to God.
And he doesn't just walk away with a new name. He walks away with a limp. For the rest of his life, every single step he takes is going to be a physical reminder of that night.
And that limp, that scar, is so important. The wound wasn't a mark of failure. It was the undeniable proof that he had wrestled with God face to face and lived to tell the tale. His weakness became the evidence of the encounter.
And that leaves us with one last question to wrestle with ourselves. What if that huge struggle you're facing right now isn't something you're supposed to win on your own? What if your point of greatest weakness, the place where you feel totally broken, is the exact place you're meant to finally let go and find a strength that was never yours to begin with?